What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to the Crypto Catch Up. Of course, your number one place to catch up on crypto. Now, today, guys, we are going to be taking a look at what's going on with the Jasmy, and we are joined by our friend Cade. Now, if you guys don't know, Cade is a YouTuber himself who talks a lot about what's going on with Jasmy. As you guys can see, it's kind of a staple of his channel these days. He has really, really good insights, and it makes a ton of sense, right? Jasmy's price itself has been doing extremely well, especially in the last year. We've seen somewhat of a resurgence, right? Because its price definitely struggled a ton in like 2022, 2023. So really starting to see it pick up quite recently. And I wanted to bring Cade on the channel today just to get an idea of, what's going on with Jasmy, what are his thoughts, why does he like it so much, and much more. And so with that said, Cade, how are we doing, man?
Hey Tyler, good. How are you doing today?
Doing good, doing good. The market's been
Yeah.
a little rough. It's been a little bit shaky, but at the end of the day, I mean, you know it, I know it. We've been here a while. You kind of just get used to it. So I mean, what can you do really?
Yeah. No, at this point, I feel like I've been in it long enough. I don't even feel it anymore. It's just, another day in crypto.
Yeah, so look, tell us, man, why Jasmine? I've noticed that you do really well, right? Especially newer channel. I think you started your channel about a month ago, roughly, and the people have been
Mhm.
watching your Jasmine videos. Even in the Jasmine community, you're catching a lot of momentum. So before we even get into Jasmine stuff, why Jasmine? Why is that one of the ones on your radar? I think it's currently number 66, 65, 66 in terms of market cap. So
Mhm.
how'd that one pop up, and like, why is it one of the main staples that you like personally?
Yeah. So yeah, my channel is relatively new, and so I have gotten a little bit more momentum than I would have expected initially, primarily from the Jasmy community. But what made me talk about Jasmy initially was kind of the whole purpose of the project. I really enjoy and I really I guess like align with the vision of people taking their own data back into their own control. I think right now, to me, like the whole data broker industry is just the biggest scam. Like there are some things that are legal that like I don't know how. And data brokers are one of them. And so for me, like the vision of Jasmy essentially giving people control of their own data, like that to me is a really great like vision to have, as well as that I know there's a lot of other like projects that are trying to do something similar in the space, but one thing that the Jasmy team has specifically is the team itself, as well as the support of a major government. And what while we like being decentralized and all this other stuff, we are at a point right now where crypto does need legitimacy from kind of some of these current institutions. And so having a major government with like the backing, that's really good. And I think that provides a lot of momentum for the project.
Sure. So, no, and that makes a ton of sense. And I think, like, being that they're number 60, I think it's 66. Let me go look. Yeah, 66. Being that it's number 66 in terms of market cap, I feel like, do you think that the space that they're tapping into right now is still a little bit unseen? Like, people just don't recognize the value that they actually bring quite yet? Like, do you think that it's still early, even though they're in the top 100, or kind of what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I did a recent video on this on my channel, kind of talking about this specifically because I know kind of once coins hit that $1 billion market cap, depending on kind of what type of crypto investor you are, that might be the point where you're like, maybe we missed the boat, which is fair. Yeah, I feel like that's not necessarily a bad way to look at it. But one thing that I talked about on the channel was the data broker industry is, I think, currently about a $360 billion industry, and it's projected to be kind of, I think, in the 400 to 450-ish billion-dollar range by, I think it's 2026. So, like, definitely a very large industry. And so I think some of the upside or kind of the play with Jasmy particularly is if they can kind of sit in that niche and start to take over some of that value from within that industry. Additionally, as AI becomes more prolific, getting good data to train your AI models on is going to also be very important. And, I don't know if that currently sits within the data broker like market or if that's an additional market that can be tapped into as well. So, I think there's kind of a confluence of a whole bunch of different things that I do think, Jasmy plays very well within, which does give it that upside, even though it is within the top 100 coins already.
Sure, sure. That makes a ton of sense. And what I'll do for the viewers is I'll kind of show the charts right now, or just the overall price performance this year. So kind of just knowing that obviously in September, October, November, December, I mean, even January, not very good months for Jasmy, but really seeing a resurgence as we went into like February, seeing an even more uptick towards June, kind of pulling back a little bit now, but still somewhat stable. I guess kind of having the mindset that you do think things can still be rather early, right around that $1 billion market cap. What do you think, before we go into kind of more long-term price predictions, do you think just in general right now, this is a good time to be buying Jasmy? Just short-term, mid-term, long-term, whatever you want. Just in general, if somebody's like, I don't know if I want to buy Jasmy right now. I know you're not a financial advisor, but just in general, right? Would you personally be investing into Jasmy right now?
Yeah. So yeah, just to be clear, obviously I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial, legal, tax, accounting, any sort of advice you could imagine. But yeah, I bought some more Jasmy yesterday. Yesterday or 2 days ago, one of them, because right now, I go into a little bit of technical analysis within Jasmy specifically, but it is kind of sitting on a lower kind of like support line right now. It's kind of sunk a little bit below it. If you want some of the details, or like, if anybody's interested, like you can check out some of my analysis on that. But ultimately, it's sitting in kind of a possibility of two different wedges right now, and it's on the lower end of one of the two, at least how I'm drawing them. And so for me, this provides an opportunity of what I would call like max risk reward, right? If you're sitting in a wedge, buy it on the bottom, not the top. Because yes, when it's in the top, it still could break through. But if it doesn't, you've got a lot more to lose as it goes on the way down. And eventually, if it does break on the downside as well. So, I've bought some more just because I do think it is in a position where it does make sense. Just to kind of enter into the Jasmy game. But ultimately, I'm not a financial advisor, and you have to do your own research and do what makes sense for you.
Sure. So with that in mind, and kind of knowing where Jasmy is right now, right, and kind of let me go look back at this and see where we currently are. Let me give this a little refresh. So we're currently seeing Jasmy sat around 2 cents. Of course, a 2 cent is sitting at about $990 million market cap. Where do you think, the big question of the day, where do you think that Jasmy can get to? I know I've seen over on your channel, and I can actually pull it up here. I know you've kind of talked about some of the different things that people have mentioned, whether it's like Jasmy getting to $5 and giving like realistic price predictions. And I'm curious about that. Where do you realistically think that Jasmy maybe this cycle could get to? And then say give a couple years, right? Maybe next cycle. Like, what do you think is a realistic, not too bullish, not too bearish, somewhere right in the middle price prediction?
Yeah. So in that video, I went into kind of like a bearish, base, bullish, and then like ultra bullish type of scenario. And so for me, I think my base case I put between 24 and 34 cents. And that was essentially, if I remember correctly, that was somewhere around a 17, I think a 12 to 17 billion dollar market cap, if I remember. And that was essentially, I tried to kind of draw as much of a quantitative like line as I could through my price prediction. But essentially what that was is that was the all-time high market caps. So all-time high market cap of Filecoin was 12 billion, and all-time high of Helium was 5. And so kind of the range that I gave there was either 12 billion, which is like just Filecoin itself, and then 17, which is Filecoin plus Helium, because I do feel like it kind of takes certain aspects of both of them. And so, given that when these new bull markets come around, usually things kind of rise higher than they did in the past. I do think that is probably a good range. I think in some of the more crazy timelines, maybe we see, $1, $2, maybe even $3. I realistically don't see anything past $3. Even 3 is like a bit ridiculous. But like, I could see a world in which that happens if the lockups happen like they say they will, and if Jasmy really does catch fire. Usually we have one or two. You saw him last bull run, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's usually a handful of projects that really just go nuts. And so, if that does happen, I do think we could see towards the upper bound of that. But I think a pretty conservative guess would be somewhere in the 24 to 34 cent range.
Sure. I like it. No, that makes a ton of sense. And I mean, that is whenever you look at different, even outside of just Filecoin or Helium, right? If you just look at some of the altcoins that actually provided some type of value that wasn't tapped into yet, it usually is like that 10, 15, 20 billion dollar range is where you just see a lot of them peak out at. And it's
Mhm.
interesting because I don't think that there's any particular reason as to why that is the case. I guess it just comes down to particularly just how much value are you providing and how many people actually see it. And so no, that makes a ton of sense, and I appreciate that. It's so easy to get wrapped up in the thought like, $2 from here, that's 100x, like, and like having those types, I think something like that, having those types of thoughts, but being able to stay a little bit more precise with things and say, hitting a $10 billion market cap is a 10x from here. And that's not particularly all that hard, especially,
Yeah.
knowing that the approach that Jasmy takes is one that is similar to some of those other alts that we have seen hit 10, 20, 15, 30, whatever $billion, right? And another
Yeah.
thing is obviously the community performs extremely well. Like this community, the Jasmy
Yeah.
community for crypto that's not even in the top 50 is quite ridiculous. And I think there's always something to say about that. And so with that said, I mean, I appreciate you obviously coming on, giving us a spill, telling us, look, this is why I think Jasmy is the one, why I think that it's a good pick. Roughly, not financial advice, why it's a decent time to buy, and where you think that this thing can go from here. And look, if you have any other things or any other thoughts about Jasmy that you want to share, feel free to do it. And, we'll go ahead and wrap this video on up here.
Yeah, no, I mean, overall, I would agree with what you say. A lot of times the community is what makes or breaks kind of the ceiling on a coin, right? And I would agree, the Jasmy coin community is very, very strong, and they definitely have a lot of conviction in their play, which is makes sense, and that's what good community should have, because that means they've done their research, they understand the bull case, the bear case, they understand why it does what it does, why it's supposed to be doing what it does. So ultimately, I think to me that's one of the more bullish things for Jasmy in particular is just the conviction that the community has, because ultimately that does, I think it plays a bigger factor than a lot of people may realize.
Sure, that makes a ton of sense, and it'll be interesting to see it all play out. And obviously, hopefully, these bags are going to be looking good. But overall, again, I'm sure you guys are going to be looking forward to. We're going to be bringing Cade back onto the channel multiple times. If you don't know, Cade is a CPA, so Cade has kind of insights on things that I personally am not able to just see them in different directions. I like his price predictions because they come up. His price predictions are based off of things that I don't base mine off of, and so obviously, being able to bring those insights for you guys here on the channel is always great. Don't forget, if you do want to check out Cade's channel, it will be linked, the first link down in the description down below. He's currently sat at 624 subscribers, and he's not even been doing this for a month. Just goes to show the progress he's making. So make sure you guys do go check it out. And of course, Cade, again, thank you for joining, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. We'll see you all next time. Peace out.